Everything has to be in moderation. Even life, everything is moderation. It should be in moderation. And I think the world that we knew is bye-bye. I think there's a new world coming, and I think it's going to take a lot of changes. I do believe it's a time for us to break down and start up again. So it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be a depression. April is a month of assassinations. And what it feels like to me is there definitely is an end of a cycle and beginning of a new one. Part of your development as a medium is you got to know boundaries. You got no boundaries, what to turn on, what to turn off, and you work with your guides. You know you're doing your work when that happens.
We have not listened to the nudges, and now the sledgehammers are coming out.
Sledgehammers are coming out, and then we got to go to our next level soul. Just saying.
I'd like to welcome to the show returning champion, James Van Praagh. How you doing, James?
Good, Alex. Thank you for having me here, and I'm really honored to be in your studio. I'm very impressed. And,
thank you.
For those who are involved in watching this or listening to this as well, he did a lot of work.
Well, I appreciate
very impressed.
That very, very much. Thank you so much, James. Well, you have been an inspiration to me for all the work that you've been doing in this space as a producer and making amazing conscious content before it was in vogue.
I think so.
Before it was in vogue.
Yeah.
You created The Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt and many other shows as well. So, I think the first time you and I sat down, it was like peas and carrots. We just vibed right away.
Understood each other right away.
Right away, we kind of got it. And,
yeah.
I try to be as authentic as I can. I know you do as well. So I think we could smell our own.
Yeah.
When we met.
Yes.
As we're recording this is the day after Next Level Soul's Ascension Conference, our first ever conference, and man, wasn't it?
It was wonderful.
Wasn't it a trip?
It was a trip, and everybody should go next time.
Yes.
Next year, we're going to push that. Yeah, it was an incredible time for people, and people came from all over the world, which I was amazed by. I mean, all over the world. So,
and there was tears.
There was tears
and
laughter, and there was insights from a lot of people, and change, and
ascension.
And ascension, opening to ascend, and everybody had an experience. Every single person there, I believe, had an experience. So
that's great. It's
and all different modalities you presented for people to have experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Sweet breathing and channeling and comedy.
Comedy
and mediums and
mediums and stuff.
It was you presented so many different ways in for people.
Which is what we try to do.
And which you try to do. So many different ways in, many different types of people you affect.
It was wonderful, and I appreciate you coming down. It was, and I had never seen you work.
Well, that's interesting because I was thinking, I wonder if Alex never seen you work. Did you enjoy watching?
Yeah. So obviously,
you're probably thinking that's not the James that I know because I go into a whole other.
No, you go into another world.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have your show on Next Level Soul TV Beyond, which is we have like 140 episodes or something like that of that. And I saw it there, what you did there, but I'd never seen. So
in person, it's a very different.
It's a very different experience in person, where you are actually you were on the stage, and you're like, okay, hold on a second. All right, I see. Okay, there's someone who just lost a business partner who did this and that, and talking about there's checks. I'm thinking it's over on this side of the room, towards the back. Does that make sense for anybody here? And you see a hand, just one hand goes up. You're like, all right, stand up. Yeah, it's he says, don't worry about the chain in the drawer. It's gonna be fine. And she's like, does that make sense to you? Is there a Larry or a Lawrence or something in your? Yes, and it was just so fascinating to watch.
Business partner's name. Yeah, it's one I liked a lot was there was a man whose father came through in the back.
Yes,
and I love that spirit comes through and affects that, because many times when you get men in your audience, you had a lot of men in that audience, which I've never seen that many men for an audience for like in a conference, and I was so honored that by themselves it was great from all over the world. And then the one man, whenever a spirit comes through and gives a reading to a gentleman. It sounds terrible, but it's true. Because men typically don't come to these things, and they're harder many times to get through to.
Oh, absolutely.
And wow, it was an amazing experience to read that man, and his father came through, and I think he was kind of shocked, as a lot of people.
Oh, no, he was.
But that could help all the people in the audience, especially the men, and relationships with fathers. So that was really interesting. One thing I remember I talked at the beginning, which is really true, now that you've seen me we work, that one message is for everybody.
Yes. If you're in a group, that message can resonate throughout the entire
because
crowd.
we're all having that human experience, so we all can share.
And also,
that.
I think it was that man, if it wasn't, it was one of the other ones, who you said something like, your mother, she was she a caregiver to children? I see a lot of children around her.
Oh, yeah.
It might have been another
right.
one.
It might have been another one. That's right.
There was a lot of children around you, and he's like, no, there's nothing. All right, just think about it. And then we did.
Yeah.
Then later in the day, we had a panel discussion where everyone could do Q&A. He walked up and goes, James, I just want to let you know, I just remembered.
Yes.
Before I was born, my mother was an au pair. She also helped raise children.
That's right.
That's right. I never think of her that way because she's just my mom, but
that's right.
She was before I was born. I was like, that's fun. And that happens all the time.
Happens all the time. People forget their first names. I was once in an audience with New York, and it was the first row, and this mother came through for her son, and she said, I want to give love to Michael, my Michael, my Michael. And I said, sir, does that mean anything to you? And he goes, And his wife, who's sitting next to him, is poking him. And she goes, honey, that's your name. So, it's weird because it's a weird type of thing. You're in this space where they're in awe. They're not sure this is happening. Wow, is this real? And it kind of go to the state of unconsciousness. I mean, they forget the names, when they were born, the type of work they do. Yeah, it happens. So.
Yeah,
and that's where you got to hold the space. I'm responsible just to stay with that space and wait till it hits. And if it doesn't, I'll always say, then write it down or keep it for later, like this gentleman yesterday. Happens a lot. It's part of the experience.
There was one lady, she was bawling. It was about her mom. She was absolutely bawling.
Yeah.
I heard later that she was literally in the bathroom just bawling her eyes. It just released something.
Yes,
in her.
It does. It happens a lot.
And that's the thing that's really interesting when people have these kind of experiences. I've seen it now live, which is really, really interesting to feel the energy.
Because one thing to talk about it when you actually experience it live.
When you experience it live, it was something really, I sat there watching this woman, and she was just almost inconsolable as you were talking. Because it just all resonated so much. And I think we all have this yearning for connection to our past loved ones, people who have passed over, especially if we have unresolved issues and things like that.
Well, that's just it. So really, to me, hell, people do their heaven and hell. Hell to me is regret. Hell to me is when we pass over and we look back at our lives, we go, oh, I should have, would have, or could have. Unfinished business. I should have done this, I should have done that. And that to me is really hard. We hold on to these things in the human life. And if we can it's very interesting. We could have our life review while we're still in the body, right? We do things a little bit differently. I think there were a couple of readings yesterday with messages about forgiveness, which often comes through. It's a subject. And, they made it clear that you don't have to call someone up or just maybe you can write a card. Or even if you had to, just sit in meditation and send healing, send forgiveness to that person. That's really important that we do that. Because we should never judge another because we don't know their background. We don't know where they've come from. So who are we to judge?
Right. Yeah. No. There's no question. It's pretty powerful to see how important these souls that have passed are to us, depending on who their mom, dad, aunt, son, daughter, this or that. But it was pretty moving to see, almost a shock, because I'm assuming in your work over the years, they're skeptics, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I started with the skeptics.
Right, exactly.
I didn't even know what they were when they said, you do cold readings. I'm like, what's a cold reading? I don't know what they're talking about. And then I thought, how could they say that? They don't even know me. So how could they talk about me? And I didn't understand it. It was just, I was the one that took all the bullets when it first came out.
I got to ask you this, James, because, in the space that I'm in right now with the show, there's obviously people who don't like what we do. Like everybody. There's always critics of everything. Always critics.
Well, especially, let me just sorry to interrupt you, but when you're shifting the paradigm, when you're changing that paradigm that people are used to, that they're comfortable with, and you're throwing in a whole new way of thinking and being, you're coming up against them. Wow, I got to change my way of thinking. So, but that's real change.
The Rockstar Foundation.
Rockstar Foundation. That's real change. You're doing your work when that happens.
Well, then, girl. I guess I'm doing it then.
You are, and it's going to get more and more and more. So
it's it's pretty remarkable. But when you were doing this, I mean, you've been doing this now about 40 years.
I was thinking on the way over here how long it's been. It's been close to, I was like 95.
Yeah, so it's
close to it. Yeah,
close to 40 years you've been doing this.
Yeah,
and when you started, it's not in vogue or
it was
cool
not around
to be. You know, it's like you were in that early crop of TV psychics.
The only one. Well, I was the first one out there actually.
Right. And Sylvia Brown was another one.
She was after me.
Yeah, exactly.
I was with her on the other side. And the first show she did was the other side. First show I was Unsolved Mysteries, and the other side, NBC show. And it was very fun because a lot of my clients knew Sylvia. I'd never met her. And it was funny. We're on stage with me, her, and all these other intuitive or psychic people, and we're all there. And during the commercial break, I looked down and said, "Sylvia, nice to meet you." And she goes, "It's good to see men doing this job." And our histories began. And so that was, but I was the first one out there before John Edward, really, George Anderson was the only one on Long Island who had done one TV thing, just a guest shot, I think. But really was my appearance on the other side, and then Larry King, that really kind of opened up everything for everybody and made it made it open for many others. And now you look on television or online, it's like everybody's into it. But when I did it, it was, I got the bullets from the skeptics. So, and, I was probably meant to do it, obviously, because it didn't affect me. And it really made me, Wayne Dyer and I were very good friends. It used to be Wayne Dyer and myself and Brian Weiss and Deepak. And we used to go around the country, do little conferences around there. And I remember Wayne said something which we joke, I used to joke with him, "I'm going to use that," and I still do. What other people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah, he said, if I can quote him exactly, it was, "Be free of the good opinion of others."
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
that was Wayne's.
That's another one. And I've used that, and I taught that, and it's true because no one knows you better than you know yourself. So I've always, one thing about me, Alex, when I started doing this work, and since I was a kid, right now I'm writing my autobiography, so I'm reliving a lot of this stuff. And I've always I think I've come into this world, like I think you probably have as well. That's why we get along so well. As I believe, I knew who I was. I knew who I was from the very beginning. I was a survivor. I knew it. And I always had a sense of who I was. That was the only way to do it. I just knew it. And when I'd see spirit when I was a little boy, and I'd see lights and colors around people, and in those days, children measure their environment with the experience. And I thought, well, I see these colors, and no one else did, and my friends will be crazy, and you're nuts, and that's fine. But it was like that wasn't my experience. My experience was seeing these things, and to me, they were very real. They were more real than many other things. So I had to stay with that, even though people said, "You're mental, you're wrong, you're crazy, you're this." And when my first experience happened, when I first brought through spirit for a girl I was working with, a coworker, and it was almost like the Sixth Sense, with a grandmother's behind her.
You saw her.
Yeah. She walked into her cubicle. I was in my cubicle. And as she walked her cubicle after lunch, this woman was behind her. It was a spirit. And she stared at me like, I'm like, and it was very much a Sixth Sense.
Really? Did it freak her out?
Freaked me out.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you understand about a lady here? She's from Idaho, White House, yellow shutters, and all these details." She goes, "Oh, yeah, that's my grandmama. She promised me she'd come back when she passed."
She was cool with it. She
was cool.
She was cooler than you were.
She was cooler than I was. Because then I thought, what's going to happen to me? Because am I going crazy? Because there was no reference again. So there really wasn't. This was before anything. And I said, wow, this is kind of weird. Am I going crazy? And I ran out of Paramount Studios I was working. I ran out to my apartment. And it was just strange because I couldn't call anyone and ask them because, they might think there's no reference.
No podcast. There's
nothing,
no books.
Nothing. So I called up the medium that I went to many years before, and he said, "James, the spirit people made the prediction that you're going to be doing this work." And it was 2 years to the day that prediction was made. And he took me under his wing and taught me for 7 years. And yeah, that's how it all happened. And then I was just, showbiz was in my blood.
Yes.
So I started I really wanted to be involved with productions that would open up the mind. And
you were early.
And I was early. Well, got things going. So now you can just take it away. Fly, my friend, fly. And that's what you're doing in your way. Yeah. I opened it up the door to change the consciousness, and you're just now going to do it in, the way of these times.
Well, I'll tell you, we're all, I think everybody in the space is on your shoulders, and other, other visionaries like you that came out in those early days who had the bravery, like Daryl Anka with Bashar, Abraham, and these other kind of people.
Jack Purcell, I remember as a child.
Of course,
Jack Purcell.
Yeah. All these that came out when it wasn't cool, when it was like, hey,
fringe.
It was definitely fringe. You're in the back of a New Age bookstore, on
true.
a Sunday afternoon or something like that, doing a reading.
I've done many of those.
Exactly, because that's all you could do.
So you could do.
And I'm assuming like watching what's happening with the awakening of humanity, and that a show like ours, or even the conference we went to yesterday. You're seeing men in there and all this kind of stuff. I gotta imagine you're looking. I'm like, my God.
Well,
changed.
To see all the men in that room, I was like so impressed, because I've done thousands of conferences, and mostly I'd say good 70% women, maybe 75, and the men were usually dragged there by their wives. But to see all these guys there without their wives, and from all over the world, I was really impressed. And that's thanks to you, because you've reached them. And one thing about me, which is interesting.
Many things about you are interesting, sir.
I just kind of keep up with myself. One thing about being a teacher, that I have my online school and so forth, I've always been, and I'm going to say it, integrity is big for me. I'm a Capricorn rising, all about integrity and responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I'm just very aware, like when I put something on television, that I'm teaching the masses, whoever. I have to open up a mind in a positive way, and it has to be done for the right intention. And I see stuff on television, I see stuff out there, which is just to get whatever.
Yeah, money,
greed, and no integrity. And to me, it's like, it's really teaching. So when I did Ghost Whisper, the show Ghost Whisper, I remember I had an argument with CBS, because it was Disney and CBS, but CBS was on my side. And Disney, I think, wanted to change it. They wanted to change the show, the format. And they wanted to make it very fear-based. And the beginning was very fear-based. And at the end, they wanted to keep it very fear-based. And I said, I won't do the show. You can't put my name on it if it doesn't end up in a positive light. That because you're putting that out to the ethers for people. And I want the show to end in a very healing, positive, loving light. Because that's who we are. You can bring them in this circus tent with the fear and say, ooh, the interest. But at the end, there's got to leave in love. Because that's what we want to leave the universe in love. And I think that's responsibility, as you know. And that's the reason why I'm here with you, and because you did exactly that way. You have integrity, and you do things of the highest manner. You as I'm looking in your studio, I was visiting today, you do things that were really in the highest of, the highest integrity.
I appreciate that very much, James. When you were saying that, like that, your show led with a little bit of fear to get them in, and then it ends healing. It's kind of like what I talk about all the time is like, I'm in the business of selling chocolate-covered broccoli. And, if you sell it as broccoli, it's going to be a tougher sell. But if you sell it as chocolate, you take a bite of the it has to be dark chocolate. Right. I'm not a savage. And if they take a bite, they get some of the broccoli in with the chocolate. And then, oh, wait a minute, I kind of like the broccoli, and there you go. But you have to kind of, because I'm not, and I think you weren't either, but I'm not going after the converted.
Correct.
Because they're converted already, and they can enjoy the content that we create and everything that we do. I'm looking for the construction worker who just lost their mom and wants to know if they're okay.
Right.
And they'll watch an NDE, and then they'll go, oh, who's this James Van, what? I can't even say his last name.
Nor can I,
Like, who's that guy? Like, and what's this over there? Is that quantum physics? And there you go down different rabbit holes. And that's who I'm going after. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many men by themselves showed up.
I was amazed.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they all have different types of backgrounds, which was like great.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, though, when you were going through the beginnings of this, and you were taking the arrows, like they say, the first one through the door is always the bloodiest.
Yeah,
the first one over the hill gets the arrows in the back.
Yeah.
How did you just deal with? I mean, I know you said it didn't bother me, but as a human being, it still has to. I mean, especially maybe it doesn't bother this version of James, but I imagine 40 years ago, James was probably not nearly as armored and shrapneled as he is now. That like it bounces off you now. But back then, I have to imagine there was some sort of emotional toll that even like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep going? Tell me.
I never had that really. Why am I doing this? I just felt I had to do it. And I didn't really get involved with I just didn't. It wasn't like they don't understand what I'm doing. So I didn't. That wasn't what I was doing it for. I was doing it for the healing of people and for the work itself. The only time, if I can think back, one of the only times that I was upset about it was I did The View with Barbara Walters, and what happened was it was probably the fourth or fifth time I was doing The View, and I Lovejoy, and then what love would be. They've changed over the years after that. But I remember Barbara was on that, and I walked into the green room, and I saw her auric field, and I was like, "This looks bad." I said, "Oh, she has dementia. I can see it." And I said, "Her heart's bad too." Oh, geez. I said, "Oh," and she's slowed down. Her energetic body was slowed down. And I first met Barbara years before, and I went to her office and in ABC, and I gave her a reading for her father, and he came through and talked about things, and I read her assistant, the secretary, and her mother who had cancer came through. Great stuff. And I'd be the first to say this isn't right or whatever, but I'm not like that. So anyway, I did the View. And I was doing, and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, I got to tell you, I liked her. She was we might not have the same politics, but she was so respectful of guests. And I was really impressed. And Whoopi was as well. And I'm doing some readings for the audience, and they were, if I can say myself, pretty good connections. I was kind of impressed. And I remember one of the people were saying, it was Joy. Joy's in the back. And Joy's a friend of mine, Joy. She goes, "Well, what about, blah, blah?" And Whoopi goes, "Be quiet. Let him finish." And it was great. So that was that. And Barbara was there, and we sat down at the end. And I said to Barbara during commercial break, "If you ever want a reading, I'd be more than happy to." Because I could tell she was kind of diminishing. This is 5, 6, 7 years before she passed. So I, at the end of the taping, the show was over, and she goes, "You can give me a reading now." And I said, "Okay." And I should have said no. But I just thought, okay, I'll do it now because I could see her state. And we started doing her. We're on the side of the stage. And I said, "You have to take off your microphone. It's no one's business but your own." And I read her and I said, "Your heart's not good." I said, "Something about your heart and your back." She goes, "No, I feel fine." I said, "Okay, that's what I'm getting." And that's what I got very clearly. Well, then the next day, or 2 days later, I think it was, I was at a friend's mother's funeral. And it was at their house having a reception party. And someone came up to me and said, "Barbara is bad-mouthing you on The View." And I turned it on, and she was, "That James in Prague, he said my heart was bad, and I went to my surgeon, pulled him out of surgery." And he said, "You're fine, your heart's fine." And that James in Prague shouldn't be doing this and hurting people. Well, I had they didn't invite me back to speak to her. It was just like millions of people or didn't even hear my point of view how it worked.
Of course not.
And then years later, she dies of a heart issue. She died of a heart issue years later. And it's like, wow. And the skeptics got a hold of that, and they put it all over the internet. And I didn't get gigs on television because of that. Yeah.
Really?
And when you put my name in there, it says Barbara Walters. And that was hurtful because, you know what? That wasn't fair. I don't mind people criticizing me, but give me a chance to counteract and talk about it.
Well, let me ask you, James, why do you think that happened to you in the grand scope of your life journey? Because it's happened for a reason. Anything that negative happens to us happens for a learning lesson. But I'm just curious because that was a pretty big punch. That's a pretty big one. Yeah, that's a pretty big punch.
It hurt me because it held me back from helping more people. It held me back from being on other shows and reaching more people, reaching more people. And that was that was tough. So that's tough. I mean, it was what it was, and I'm just fine. But I could have reached a lot more people, and unfortunately, it was because producers do these shows. They just look you up, and if they see, oh, Barbara Walters said he's a phony or whatever, then they won't do it. So I've had a lot of that.
It took you years to come back from it.
It was upsetting, and then when she died of the heart issue and dementia, I was like, I felt vindicated. No, but that's something which was hard because I'm such an honest person.
Yeah, I know.
And then to have that was like, wow, that's just wrong. But it is what it is. It's part of the human experience, and I forgive the lady.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and that's all that it is. So
you were saying that when you were in that cubicle and you saw this basically
her grandmother,
a ghost behind her. I talked to you I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday when we were like, do you see dead people walking around all the time? And then you told me, no, I'm closed right now.
Yeah.
And that's a very important thing for people to understand.
It's really important.
And I talk to other psychics like that sometimes because when they first start, they don't know how to put the close sign on.
That's what I teach in my school, because you have to know, and it's come recently from a lot of the students, they need to know the mechanics of mediumship. And the mechanics of mediumship and channeling and mediumship is you need to know when to turn on that sense, that part of the mind, to be receptive and to be the vessel. And then when you're done, you have to turn it off, whether it's closing a curtain, whether it's switching a light off. And it's really important because it affects the adrenal system of the body, the endocrine system. And I often say to my students, just think of the analogy of like a ceiling fan. And if the ceiling fan is always on, and it'll eventually burn out the motor. And that's why it has to go off. Same with our adrenal system, because mediums and psychics and channels, just the adrenals are being overtaxed, overused. This is our power pack. And when you're overusing it, it can start breaking down. And that's why it's so important that people who do this work realize you've got to turn it on and turn it off. You can't be like running around. Again, here I go again, not to put anyone down, but Teresa Caputo, lovely lady. I met her once, lovely. I met her husband, who was nice as well. And this is ignorance of the producers. I got to say that. Even with Tyler Henry, there's the ignorance. Producers don't know the mechanics of mediumship. So with Teresa, they portrayed it and to the public that she just goes out and she's open. The spirits are around her all the time. She goes to the bakery and then someone comes in. Well, I don't know if she's been not taught not to do that. But for me, I'm such a stickler, to demonstrate that to the public, it sends misinformation to the public about mediumship, that you can't always be on. You've got to be turned off. So I prefer going to the butcher shop, saying, okay, I'm going to open up right now. And now I feel there's a woman here. That would be the appropriate thing to do. Because remember, you're teaching the public. They're looking to you for the expertise. And if they don't have the right way of doing it, and they're hurt, because they could hurt people, If people start doing that and don't realize they've got to modulate things and integrate things and close down, it could hurt them physically. I've met many mediums who died of internal stuff going on, whether it's a cancer with a certain disease, leukemia, because their adrenals were overtaxed. It's really important.
So it's kind of like in Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg's like, Sam, I can't. They've come out of the woodwork. They're all over the place. Obviously, Whoopi in that movie, that character didn't understand what was happening. No. She was playing a fake psychic.
That's right.
And then she all of a sudden is like, oh no, oh crap, I'm a real psychic now.
Right. So that does happen, Alex, where I go into a space and I'm aware of all these spirits around me. I'm very aware of them. Yesterday I was aware of them before I even started in the conference. I was aware of them. I'll walk into a space and be aware of them. I will not engage until I'm ready to work. And
so you see them, but you don't engage.
Yeah, I see them, I feel them, I sense them. Yeah, very much so. Now, recently my brother passed over, and not too far away, and he has come through me in ways where I'm surrendered I'm getting a massage, he comes to me. I'm not thinking about driving, also he comes to me. And I allow that only because
he's your brother.
He's my brother, and he's not taxing me. And so that's a little different. But I'm not every day going, okay, let's talk. You just can't do it. And it's part of your development as a medium is you got to know boundaries. You got to know boundaries, when to turn on, when to turn off. And you work with your guides. And your guides, they're going to work with the instrument. And to me, an instrument is like a piano. It's going to be properly tuned and work to its capacity. And if you're not correct in your taking care of the instrument, it could break down. So I want to get the most out of my vessel as I'm meant to, and I've got to do my responsibility as the human here. I've got to take care of myself. And that means, obviously, you can't drink caffeine or wine or alcohol. I said, oh, yes, you can. But everything has to be in moderation. Even life, everything is moderation. It should be in moderation. So,
I have to ask you, James, have you ever been drunk? And
I've been drunk quite often.
So if you've ever been drunk, what happens to your abilities?
This is right here.
Yeah, vodka. That's an Irish coffee. No, but if you ever been like completely, not like inebriated, but just so like you've drank a bunch that night, you're tipsy, you're a little loopy or something like that. What happens to your abilities? I've never asked that question.
It's interesting because a lot of mediums, some of my students started asking me these questions, and really it's interesting because a lot of people start doing readings when they're drinking, and they'll do this with friend. So and so's coming through with this because they're lowering themselves down. Sure. They're opening themselves up.
Yeah, of course.
They're not nervous. It just flows.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah, because you now you're taking off the ego, the mind. It's all starting to kind of weigh down. So now you're much more open.
You're much more open.
So dangerous way of doing the business.
Dangerous way in many respects, because also, you're just open. You're also, when you drink, it slows you down. So you're lowering that vibration.
Right.
And you're lowering it down. And that's why I always say in my books that one should never be aware when you go into bars, clubs, things like that. You really got to protect yourself, your energetic field, because you're going to a vibration where it's really slow and down. And listen, I think there are those beings, spirit beings, if you will, who have passed over, who still are at a lower level, and that they miss the drink, that they miss those places, and they do haunt them. I do believe that. And they will haunt those places, those old hangouts, and they want to have that last bit of the drink. And spirits can actually, if we have a drink, they can get the essence of that drink. Plus, they have the memory of it, so they get the memory and the essence. They won't get drunk because they're not physical, but they get the essence. So you've heard of hangers-on. So they could be hangers-on. And I do believe that. I don't know anything till I pass over, but I do believe that they can influence those of a weaker nature. If, let's say, they're very mediumistic. And that's why a lot of mediums also, by the way, different mediums and so forth, would be alcoholic many times because they couldn't deal with that higher vibration and it slow it down. And that's very dangerous because I call them Bill hangers on. And not that it happens all the time, but you got to be mindful of your space that you go in. And, I mean, I can go into bars and clubs, but I would definitely prepare myself, surround myself with an energy, or meditate beforehand, seal off my field. I do it every day before I go to the human world. I'll do a shower and I cleanse the physical body, then I cleanse my mental body. And I will imagine beautiful golden loving light coming in and around me. Mm-hmm. And before I got the shower, and I say, and it's very interesting when I do that and bring in that loving light, and then I close my eyes and I imagine out of my fingertips and out of my toes like a Hershey syrup, like a heavy energy. That's negative energy or someone else's energy in my space. Yeah. Because every day we meet people, their energies, particles of their energy stay in our space. So I want to clear that away. And every night before I go to sleep, I go through my whole day and I see where I left my voice, my connection, and I bring back my energy. And I also send the other person's energy back to them. So before I go my day, I program it and they say after my energetic cleanse, the shower, then before I go out of that shower, I'll say, may God go before me and show me the way. So I set that vibrational tone surrounding me, and it really works. So like attracts like, in that magnetic sense, you're attracting on that highest frequency. I used to do it all the time. Would you hear this one? Before I'd go on the Universal Lot. It's on the side of the 101 freeway.
Oh, no. I've been there.
You've been there
many times, yeah.
So before I go any lot, I'd always sit and really surround myself and protect myself.
You definitely have to do that when you walk on any Hollywood soundstage.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine? I got to imagine that when you were on like the Universal backlot or Warner Brothers or Disney, I mean, they're ghosts.
Oh, there are ghosts.
I mean, literally, like old actors maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Who have you seen? Like, what did you ever see in those?
Well, I didn't want to open up I didn't at all, because I was in the middle of a studio and I was working with producers who were just horrible and cutthroat and
shocking. Well,
I hired them in the season. The show became really, really popular, and then they tried firing me, and I said, "Wait a minute. I'm your boss." So what? So it was all like that. It was like, think about it. You have desperate actors, actresses trying to get a job. There's all producers about money and trying to get the money. There's so many dynamics going on.
Politics.
Politics. And even on a set. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
If you're on a set and the director even shows a slight weakness, it's like blood in the water.
It's true.
The crew will turn on him.
It's true.
The actors could turn on him. The producer could turn on him.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see.
It's interesting.
I've been challenged so many times on set as I came up from first ADs.
Sure.
I'm paying you.
Exactly.
And you're giving me crap.
That's right.
It's fascinating.
We had, before the show Ghost Whisperer, it was very interesting because, so many interesting dynamics there. But I predicted the show was going to do this, and it happened. And I said, if we can get these Disney and CBS in a room together, and I'll do readings, we'll sell the show. And to get them together was like, oh my goodness, what a
forget it.
Crazy. And it was development season. So literally some guy comes in from Disney at some person's house, says, how long is it going to take? I got to read some scripts. And I said, well, just we'll see what happens. And it changed his life. Someone came through. But really it was wild because It was really, really interesting. We had a lady by the name of Marianne Winkowski, and she's a earthbound ghost buster, I guess you would say.
Sure.
So in her experience, she would tune into those spirits that would not go over, that they were earthbound. And I deal with them once they're over there. But she was very interesting because she said, well, there are many souls that will not go into that light for whatever reason. She goes, there are many who love their work here and they'll stay here. We were once having, we once went through the Universal lot and we did a tour. And she would tell us who was there and who was there. And there were these old stage hands over there.
Yeah.
There were actors and actresses, some well-known ones.
Stuntmen.
Stuntmen. And she would mention it, and we looked it all up, and sure enough, it all made sense. And I remember another time we were at a restaurant in West Hollywood, and we're sitting there, and she goes, I said, so, just like you're asking me, are they always there? She goes, well, I'm aware of them, many, but not all. They're not all over the place. Certain places they are, a lot of them. And I said, well, a couple of great stories. I might have told you one of these, but I have to.
Go ahead.
So she said, they see that man sitting. She goes, there's a man sitting on the steps. I said, there's a man. She goes, he's about 30 years old. I said, and he's gay. I said, okay. And she said, he doesn't want to go to the other side. So he knows I can see him. I said, okay. She goes, he doesn't want to go over to the other side because he was raised religiously. And his mother and father relayed to him that he's, if he's gay,
he's going to hell.
He's going right to hell.
Of course.
So he was afraid to go into the light because he saw him go right to hell. Wow. So I'd rather stay behind on earth. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, because the programming was so heavy here that it literally transfers over. And to my understanding, James, when someone's transferring over or transitioning over to the other side, there's a transition period where they're kind of like decompressing from this experience. Yeah. And many of them can do it very quickly. Many of them go into the life review and they have help. But others are, I've had some near-death experiencers who were so, like, they were told like hell and all that stuff. They believed they needed to go to hell. So when they went to the other side, they actually had a hellish near-death experience until they go, I'm done, I need help. And then Jesus or an angel or someone shows up, a light shows up, and all the negative goes away, and they're able to ascend. True. But a lot of times that programming is so hard that they can't leave.
Exactly right. Exactly what it is. It's in their mindset. And that's why it's really important for people to have an awareness of life after death, of what happens after death, that what you carry in your mind will bring you to the other side. The love that you make here, you meet when you pass over. And it really helps to realize that it's a natural occurrence. I'm doing a podcast tonight, my podcast, about a friend of mine who's getting ready to pass. And it's a show about living to dying and how to prepare for death. And we every day can prepare death by doing the right thing, but really there's much, much more than just this physical body. I have one more story I got to tell you about that earthbound thing. So I was talking with Marianne Winkowski for our show. She said, which is really interesting, she goes, well, people got it all wrong. Cemeteries aren't haunted. There's no energy. They can't draw from any energy. No earthbound spirit can draw from any energy. I said, oh, that makes it interesting. So where would they be? Would be most haunted places? Dentist offices and airports. I said, huh. And doctors, but mostly it's just the dentists and airports.
Why dentists?
People are afraid. So it's the fear energy that they hold on to, that fear energy to hold them kind of down here to gravitation.
Interesting.
It's the fear energy. That's what they hold on to.
So they're also probably on war zones and things like that as well.
Yes, but really well established. Doctors as well, doctors' offices. Hospitals for sure. Yeah. So this is an interesting story. So I remembered that, and I was once in Nashville, and I think it was a long time in Nashville, and I'm taking a plane back, and I was an hour wait in the airport, and I'm walking around, and I notice there's this man going back and forth, and he's a ghost, he's a spirit. I'm like, huh? No, I'm not really tuned in because I don't want to be, but for some reason, this impression, he's making an impression in my mind. And he's walking back and forth. His big, thick glasses. He's walking back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, okay, I see the dude. I'm not going to let him know that I see him. I'm not going to put my mind to him. I'm aware of my peripheral vision of him. And it's not that he's coming over to me, but I see him around me. Peripherally, I see him around. So eventually I get on the plane. And I'm sitting there in the first class. And there's beautiful blonde ladies next to me. And all of a sudden, I see the ghost, the guy coming to the plane. I'm like, oh my gosh, the guy with the dark hair and the glass. I'm like, oh, he's on the plane. Oh, geez, what's going to happen now? So as I'm talking, the plane takes off. I don't know where he went, but the plane takes off. And then I'm aware, at one point that he's kind of behind me, like, okay, this guy is trying to get to me. What the heck? And as I'm talking to the lady next to me, this lovely lady. We're talking about different things. She's in L.A. and she goes, my husband was in music. I said, oh, was he? She goes, yeah. He was Roy Orbison. And I said, oh, that's who it is. Roy Orbison is the man with the glasses and black hair.
For people not listening, he wrote Pretty Woman.
He wrote Pretty Woman.
Yes. Not the movie.
Yeah.
The song.
I mean, he was incredible, man.
Okay, yeah.
But, then was it up for me to say, guess what? He's right here. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that.
No. Yeah, and also you're trapped up in the air, so if anything goes wrong and she starts freaking out or something, you can't go anywhere.
It wouldn't be appropriate.
It wouldn't be appropriate. And there is something to be said about that, where mediums have a responsibility.
A big responsibility.
A big responsibility not to just walk up to somebody and go, listen, grandma just here and she wants to talk to you. Like, if you don't solicit it.
It's more like the ego is speaking instead of, they do it from an ego point of view.
Yeah.
I think. Or an ignorance. They don't.
I had at the conference yesterday, I had a psychic show up. Like, she's one of the participants of the conference. And she walks up to me. She's like, Alex, I don't normally do this, but I have a really strong message for you. And I'm like, I'm cool. Like, if there's anyone you could, fine. I'm down.
You're very open.
I'm very open. It's solid. I'm not promising. She gave me this message. I was like, I know. Thank you so much. I already knew what she was saying. It was a kind of a message to kind of reiterate the urgency of what I need to do. So I was like, I appreciate that. It's just kind of like a little push. And I was like, okay. So that happens to me.
She came from a good place. So what's the intention behind it?
Yeah, she was. It was very beautiful, and she was just trying to help.
Right.
It wasn't anything crazy. It was just one message, very simple, very straight and to the point. And of course, when gentlemen like yourself come on the show, Alex, I have something to tell you. Like,
but see, I wouldn't tell you in public. I would tell you privately.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, on public. Yeah, unless we ask, like, hey, I need a reading, James. Can you give me one now?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, like that. It's different. But off air, I just get. So I'm used to it. Channels do it to me all the time. So I'm kind of used to that stuff. But I get it. For someone who's uninitiated or is not open to that, it could really destroy their life.
It could hurt them.
It could hurt them very badly because it just could rock their foundation. It could open up. It's very, very dangerous.
And it's more important for that medium or that psychic than it is for the recipient thing. That's not right. I always think you need permission. I mean, I teach this in my classes about integrity and responsibility. And you really need to remember you're holding someone's life like a thin piece of glass. And your job is not to destroy them, but to build them up. And that's really, really important, but a lot of people don't get that. And that's a really important part of the work, And I don't know, Alex, if that's starting to fade away from people.
As far as the responsibility?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think...
Only because we see TV shows where they say, oh, I'm coming up to you. And,
I think that this awakening that we're all going through right now and humanity is going through right now is opening up a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
it certainly is.
And just like... Perfect example. When I was editing back in the days, you'll understand this.
Yep.
I was an avid editor for a long time.
Sure.
And as an avid editor, and bear with me, everyone. There's a point to this story. As an avid editor, it was a $500,000 editing system. Mm-hmm. So that alone let only a handful of people do the job. Mm. Then the technology got really inexpensive, where Final Cut showed up, and when Final Cut Pro showed up, then for a couple $1,000s, you can have an editing system. Then the technology kept going and going to the point where now anyone can edit on their iPhone on a non-professional way, or on a laptop. You can do a full movie, all that kind of stuff. And when you open the door, the beautiful thing is now people who didn't have access to it before have access to it now.
Yes.
The problem is people who didn't have access to it have access to it now.
Right.
So they muddy the waters. People that shouldn't have access to that kind of information or that kind of power gets it now, and it's does it for the wrong reasons. So I believe that that's happening in channeling, that's happening in psychic mediums, that's happening in the spiritual space. Now so many people are channels, so many people are trying to be psychic mediums, and that's awesome. It really is. But there's You got to
They've
take
got
the
to
good,
come from the right place.
but you got to take the good with the bad when you open up the things. Like when you were coming out, early 40 years ago, there was you could count probably in one or two hands how many people were doing it.
Yeah.
On a public standpoint, at least.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was
that
just
wrote
myself.
books
It was George Anderson, myself, and then after me was John Edward and Sylvia Brown, and that was really it
for a while.
For a while.
Yeah, for a long while, that was it.
Yeah. I mean, God bless John Edward. He's still out there doing it with his demonstrations, and he doesn't slow down. I said, John, really? And he said, no, I love it, and good for him. And so it's really interesting. But that's changed over the years. The mediumship has changed because, as we see now, Tyler Henry and, that's fine, and Teresa. But more shows them with mediums that, I don't know. I'm just really critical in that I hold mediumship to a high standard because we are the ambassadors of the highest form of, to me, it's all about love. Yeah. And you have to demonstrate that love. And it's not a sideshow, not a circus act, and it should be treated with respect and integrity and responsibility. And when I see that it isn't, it's just like, this is not.
You're a medium's statesman, if you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess.
You are a statesman.
Well, otherwise, don't do the work. If you're not willing to be responsible for what you put out and build people up and do the work the right way. Don't just throw it out there like you're in a circus and I can do this. Many of my students, when I do it, I talk to my students at first, say, what is the reason behind your mediumship? What is the reason why you want to get involved in it? Well, I want to help people. I want to serve people. And I say, there are many ways to help people. You could go into medical work. You could go into baking. You can go into accounting. There are many different services. What is the real reason behind it? Right. So they really got to know themselves. And mediumship takes on many different ways of mediumship. It's all just an energy that we all channel, right? That creative force, if you will. Mm-hmm. But there are many ways you can do it. Even therapists can be, whoever's a medium in their own, in their own way, for their own work. You're a medium. We're all mediums in our own way. Mm-hmm. But when you do the work, the spirit communication, to me, it's a whole different, game because you're dealing with a higher vibration in that the highest vibration there is love. And you have to bring that element of love if you're going to work as a medium, especially before people and in the public eye on television. There's got to be that sense of, at least for me, again, I can't say it for everybody, but I'm a teacher in that I have to demonstrate and teach love. And perhaps it might be the father never was able to say I love you to his daughter, and that's why he couldn't say I love you. But there's got to be, I'm going to say it this way. There are a lot of great technicians out there, as far as many mediums. Not just because someone's a medium doesn't mean they're spiritual. They'd be great technicians, but doesn't mean they're spiritual.
Or that they're good people.
They're good people.
There are a lot of people who have the gift who are not like evolved and have ascended.
Bingo.
Right? I mean, that's a thing, and that's another thing I love to talk about on the show because people automatically think like, well, God gave you this gift, so you must be doing everything for the right reasons.
Yes.
You're not doing it out of ego. No, it happens even with spiritual masters.
Yes.
They might have mastered a certain level of awakening. Yeah. But they didn't master the three-dimensional world, and they sleep with their students, or they are caught up in the fame of it and all that stuff, even though they've reached a certain level, not the highest, but a certain level.
You'd be very shocked. I'm not going to tell you, but
who it is off air, maybe
a lot of them. Off air, I could tell you.
Off air, you could tell.
But yeah, you'll be shocked. I mean, people would be just shocked at what I had. This is one of the things in my career that shocked me. Mm-hmm. It's like, that person acts that way, and then what? And it was really shocking. That was one of the things that in my career really set me back because I was like, wow, how can this person be this way in front of people and then behave a whole different way? And it makes me just lose so much respect because for me, life as a medium, you have to live that. It's a life of service. And it's almost like you can't just put it on when in front of people and close off. I mean, I got to live my life as a medium. I had to live my life as a spiritual ambassador in that, and all the way I live, like my principles, I got to live my principles out. I've got to bring love to everywhere I can, any way I can do it, and I got to be non-judgmental. Not easy. I've had to learn that one, but I had to. Who am I to teach something if I don't do it myself, right? So it's interesting. But there are people who just get caught up in the phenomena of psychic or channeling or mediumship. It's the phenomena.
Yeah, they get caught up with the sideshow of it all.
Yeah, they want to be well known. When I said, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be well known. I want a TV show. No, that's not the right reason behind it. There are hundreds of thousands of mediums out there who no one knows about, but the most talented ones around that you don't hear about.
It's kind of like filmmakers and actors and those kind of things. Like, I need to be famous. I'm like, that's not the way. That's not. No, you can't make a movie for that.
That's right.
If you walk into the movie going, this is Oscar bound, you're done. You're done.
That's right. That's right.
You're done.
Yeah,
there's no question. With all that said, I see a woman behind you. She's in Victorian garb. She's staring at me, and she wants.
What does she want to say?
She has a message.
I don't want to hear from her.
Okay.
It's funny. I've had people come up to me and say things like that, like I said to you.
To you?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, I have a message for you.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. You must listen to this message. It's very important that you hear this. Like, huh? Oh, you got to hear it. I said, I don't want to. You have to. I said, no. No, that happened. Or I get, books sent to me every week. Say,
oh, yeah.
It's your karma to get this book published.
Oh, wow.
I've had a lot of those.
I get those too.
You get all this sort of
thing. God, yeah. My spirit guides told me to reach out to you to be on your show. I have to be on your show.
That's right.
My favorites are always the I have a message.
There you go.
Only for you, I need 5 minutes. And I'm like, guys, I appreciate it. I really do. But if I took 5 minutes for every 5-minute email, it would we wouldn't be able to do a show.
So I'd say write it down and mail it to me.
Yeah. But you want me to what? Mail?
Mail? What's that? I don't know. I put the stamp on the envelope. Oh, there's an envelope you need? What's the stamp? Yeah.
What's an envelope? Now, a friend of ours, his name is Bruce Joel Rubin.
Oh!
I loved Bruce.
Okay, so Bruce Joel Rubin wrote Ghost.
He wrote Ghost. He wrote Jacob's Ladder. He directed This Is Life, Last Mimsy.
I know him from the Ghost.
Well, Ghost he won the Oscar for Ghost.
Right. So what I did with Ghost,
because I was going to go. There's a scene in there I wanted to talk to you about. Yes.
But I've never met the man. I tried meeting him after Ghost, but I couldn't get to him. I was working at Paramount Studios at the time when they showed Ghost, and they had it on the studio. We had a screening, and everyone's there. And I was just starting my mediumship or studying it, and I knew the techniques. I knew the ways of doing things, and when the movie ended, I was the only one in the room that stood up, standing ovation.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because he got it all right, and to get this out there and to demonstrate it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was one of the first real kind of expressions of what mediumship is.
Yes.
And obviously a Hollywood rapper. But he snuck in a lot. But he snuck in a lot that they let in.
And he studied he studied mediumship before for this movie. He really prepared and learned and read books and
You know his story, right? You know how he became like kind of he's like a Tibetan.
I do not.
So right now he teaches meditation. He's more on the Tibetan side of.
Didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he's gone full like that in his years, and in his retirement years, and he's a wonderful, wonderful soul. I had him on the show years ago, and we had this conversation and. I'll tell this story because it's brilliant. He's in Berkeley in the 1960s, and his friend goes, "Hey, Tim has a big vial of LSD that just came in from Sweden or Switzerland, and he wants. Can we keep it? He can't receive it. We'll keep it in the. Can we keep it in the refrigerator overnight and pick it up in the morning?"
Gosh.
Tim was Timothy Leary, so. And he had never tried any drugs before, Bruce. So his friend's like, hey, if we're going to try some LSD,
wow.
Having Tim Leary's uncut LSD from Switzerland is the way to go.
Wow.
And he's like, you know what? Let's do it. And it's the 60s. We're in Berkeley. What the hell? So they take a dropper. There's a gallon of it. Like they could drop
it. It's a liquid form.
It's all liquid form. Yeah. So it's not anything else. It hasn't gotten into the tabs yet.
Oh, okay.
So he takes a dropper. So it's raw.
Wow.
And he takes one drop. And he sits there for like an hour. He's like, man, I don't feel anything. He goes, we should probably take a couple more.
Oh, geez.
So his friend takes the dropper. Oh, no, you want to hear whoopsie? The whole dropper.
No.
80 doses.
Oh.
At once. Which you cannot undo. You cannot pump a stomach. You're done. You're going on a ride.
Did they both do it?
He got the 80. The other one, I got like 1 or 2. So
oh, wow.
He goes, sit down and get ready for a ride. And when it finally hit, and it hit hard, his entire body was deconstructed, ripped apart, like he was in space, ripped apart. His essence was left.
Wow.
He flew to the center of the universe.
Wow.
Spoke to God.
Wow.
And then you have to watch the episode. There's a lot more details I'm letting out. And then he came back, flew back in. His body reassembled, and he came out of it.
Wow.
And that, of course, changed his life.
Of course, I would think so.
And now, when you watch Jacob's Ladder, you understand. He goes, that's the closest we ever got to my psychedelic experience.
Well, I got to watch it over again now.
Because Jacob's Ladder, when I watched it, I was like, gee, man, what the hell is this guy on? Like, it was the weirdest movies of the time. Adrian Lin, great director, directed it.
Yeah.
And Bruce was telling me, it's like, we fought to get that in. And that was the script that got his career started. Wow. It was one of those like top 10 best scripts in Hollywood that no one produced.
Was that before Ghost or after?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was before Ghost.
It was before Ghost.
Wow.
Then after he won the Oscar for Ghost, then he did This Is My Life with Michael Keaton and The Last Mimsy, and he did a ton of different projects over the years. But that was just so funny. Now, there is a scene, though, in Ghost that you said, Bruce, and listen, and it's okay. Bruce would be the first to say it's cool.
Okay.
That they got a lot right, and I used the.
They got a lot right.
The
96%.
96% was right, and like I use Whoopi as an example all the time with like people coming into her and the ghost in the room and
the funny thing aside is that she's really into this.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's Scorpio. She loves it.
And Sam kicking the can and all that, like the moving of things.
That happens.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we all
betcha.
see that happens. But now like putting like you have to think everything and that whole thing. The shadow monsters that
was interesting.
So the shadow monsters.
What do you think about that?
Personally, I think it was it's a concept of going to hell, to a hellish experience.
Right.
I can Trip the Night Fandango and kind of explain it away if you like, but I think it was part of what we needed in that movie because people needed something to grab. You needed a Darth Vader, you needed a Hannibal Lecter, you needed a consequence. It can't be all love in a movie because in a movie you need all of those contrasts to make it work. If not, if you don't have a bad guy, you have no conflict.
Yeah.
You don't have a movie.
I thought he did really an exceptional job with that because how can you have the souls?
It was beautiful.
That's Dark Souls.
It was Dark Souls kind of pulling him down, and you could explain it that's him, and that he's going to have to deal with that, and it's his point of view because of what he's done, the bad guy's done. And
right. I thought it was great, actually, how he handled that. The other thing I thought was really great was Earthbound Spirit, the guy stuck in the subway. I loved that.
Right. He was stuck in the subway. All he would do is ride around. And he got
Get
angry.
Off my train.
Oh, he was such a great actor.
Yeah, great actor.
And he kicked off Patrick Swayze out of the train and all that stuff. But there's this scene, a very famous scene in the movie, where Whoopi allows Demi Moore to come in and connect with Demi. Look, it allows Sam to come in or Patrick Swayze to come in through her. So he could touch Demi, and they had this beautiful scene together.
Yes.
That was the one part you're like,
well,
tell me how how that scene, does that even exist? Or if it did, how could it?
I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm a purist when it comes to mediumship.
We've noticed that about you.
Purist. And that's physical mediumship. So in physical mediumship, and I've been with many physical mediums, it's a rarity of physical mediumship. I've been with Leslie Finn, most famous of the 20th century, where the voice box would appear in the air and spirit come through and it'd sound just like the spirit. My mother came through, one of my guides came through that way. And I know in physical mediumship, even in trance mediumship, that you go down to such a level of consciousness that you're slipping down. You're always aware of what's going on. But as you're slipping down, you're going down to a lower consciousness, conscious state. And that you're allowing that soul to come in to you, through you, which is fine. Happens, you're aware of it, and they can speak through you. And there are many times there are spirits who can walk, and they can stand up and walk around the room. Now, I have been taught, now I might be wrong, but I don't think it is, that when someone is entranced, which in this case, Whoopi was supposedly entranced, that they wouldn't be able to hold a physical person, because number one, it would hurt the vibration of the soul to come. It would cause internal bleeding, I've heard. And
yeah, I can imagine physical toll.
It's a hard one. So that to me was.
It works for the movie, and of course you have.
It works for the movie, but I was like, oh, he got everything right.
Some creative license. But overall,
but again, that's teaching the public not the right way. And
James,
I know, but I'm in it, so I can't help it.
I know, I get it, but overall, I think the positive aspect of the film and the story overweighs the one scene, in my opinion. But you're right. I mean, but also you have to have some creative license. You have to have like that, and that scene was so beautiful. On a creative standpoint, on a story standpoint. It worked beautifully.
I thought it was kind of creepy.
Well, it was beautiful until you realize that it's Whoopi Goldberg.
It's Whoopi Goldberg doing it anymore, and I'm
it's kind of like when you watch Back to the Future and you're like,
which I've never seen.
James.
Sorry,
James. When you get home this weekend,
I've never seen it.
James, you have to watch Back to the Future. James,
I will.
Well, in that movie, his mother falls in love with him.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
okay.
so there's like that whole creepy. I'm like,
right?
Is this incest? Like, what is happening
what's going on here?
So when you but in the story, it makes perfect sense. Right. And it flows. So, now you were mentioning to me yesterday, actually at the conference, you mentioned this, that April of this year.
Oh, something. Take a little coffee.
Yeah, drink a little coffee.
Bailey's.
Drink a little Bailey's with you. That April of this year.
It's a rough time.
It's a rough time. Like, apparently,
I don't know when this is going to be shown.
This will probably be aired within the month of April.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to try to
So
get
it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet, but I'm going to try to get it out before the month is over.
Yes.
So the March, to my understanding, was the end of an era of some sort, like in the cycle. There was a cycle that ended astrologically, the yugas.
A lot of things
all
going
the
on.
things like kind of combined. I've had
7 planets in Pisces.
Yeah, like I had Chinese astrologers, I had Vedic astrologers, I had Western. They all said the same thing about the yugas and about the cycle. So March ended that. So April is kind of the first month of the new cycle. So can you explain what is happening now?
And I'm limited with my astrology, so forgive me for that. But what I've heard and what it feels like to me is there definitely is an end of a cycle and beginning of a new one. And it's going to be a cycle that people have to go within themselves. And so there might be a lot of chaos going on around us in the outside world, which politically is already happening in the United States. So it's like, wow.
Around the world.
Around the world. I just came from Europe, and yes, people looking like, you crazy Americans. And, it's going to be some conflicts going on. And there's going to be some severe stuff happening, not only weather-wise, which actually I predicted these weather changes about a year ago in my podcast. And there's April is a month of assassinations. When I say that, what I mean by that is, and my good friend Kelly White, who I work with, really was the one who mentioned this astrologically, because you have these 7 planets in Pisces, you have the moon eclipses. It's really a Kadanta too, from going from water into fire time. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So the exact astrological aspects that happened in June of 1968, which I remember very well, when RFK was assassinated, and then MLK, Martin Luther King. We have the exact same, down to the exact degree of that assassination time. We have those planets exactly in April. So for 2 to 3 weeks in April. So It should be a rough time. Could be assassinations.
Really?
I don't know whom, but I'm not saying.
We'll talk off air.
No, but it could happen. It's will it happen? Don't know, but it is. It's there. It's a possibility.
The key thing that you said, though, is that it's going to these times that are coming are going to force us to go inward.
100%.
And I did a talk at the conference yesterday where I was talking, like, when you start to look inward, it's either happening in a moment of chaos, a moment of great pain, or loss of love or life or something something close to you, or in great beauty. Those are the 3 things that force you to go inward. It's a trigger. It's interesting because, like, I always like, when you're in the Amalfi Coast on a yacht, drinking champagne, eating lobster, you're not looking for Jesus. You're not. I
didn't find Jesus when I was doing that.
You're not really looking. He's not lost, but you're not really looking for salvation. You're not looking for Buddha. You're not looking inward because you're enjoying the outward so much. Yeah. Only when you lose everything, or you take a punch, or you do, that's when you go, I gotta look in. The pandemic was that.
Yes.
Pandemic shocked the world to start to look, and that started this awakening, really, hard. It really jump started.
It's not over.
Oh, I know, we were far from it.
And we're gonna have another one as well. And I was like, we're gonna have another pandemic, and Sure enough, I read the other day about this fungus that they cannot control, and it's all over the world. And it's kind of a fungus that's growing. And I think lovely. I think another one of these pandemics, and I think that the world's going to go through some wars. I think it's going to be a rough time. And I think the world that we knew is bye-bye. I think there's a new world coming, and I think it's going to take a lot of changes and people's belief systems, and it's already happening. I mean,
but the old systems are falling.
Well, I predicted that 2 years ago that the institutions, it's on my prediction show, the institutions are going to be falling apart, and they already started. Musk has changed things around and moved things around.
So politics, religion, so all of the
religions.
Hollywood
yeah.
is. I mean, you can.
I also think, though, that Alex said, I really believe that there's going to be so much negativity that people don't want to watch television. They don't want to watch. A lot of people don't watch news. I don't watch news.
It's happening already.
And they're going to turn televisions off and go back to the internet. And so I think studios, it's going to be a hard time for people in that industry because people are going to want to watch that. They're going to want to be.
I mean, our show gets more ratings than a lot of the news shows.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
But this is real.
Yeah, and people are looking.
People want positivity and something that speaks to their soul, not negative. They don't want negativity anymore. They won't be able to take it anymore, especially when they're living it. They can't watch it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why Hollywood's having such a tough time as well with
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It'll be changing the industries. It's going to change.
Yeah, medical industry, healthcare. Yep.
Banking,
food,
financial,
all of them. You see the cracks happening around us everywhere. Yeah. And it's
and then land changes too. So
land changes meaning
land changes. Well, a lot of water, hurricanes, a lot of water,
flooding.
Lots of flooding happening, especially the Pisces, 7 planets of Pisces, which is water, and you're gonna have a lot of volcanic. You're gonna have a lot of changes coming up next year. Yeah, very true.
This is April. What do you foresee happening as far as a timeline concerned? Because it's moving so fast, James.
It's so fast.
I mean, from 2020, every year seems like a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, in the amount of stuff.
It's true.
I mean, you've been on the earth for quite some time.
Yeah.
I was born in the 70s. From what I've seen in the 70s.
I was going to discos in the 70s, Alex.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I
lived Saturday Night Live. I lived that.
Exactly. But even from the moment when I was born, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I saw things speeding up. And I always use this example, like VHS shows up, and it takes a decade or so before it really starts to hit its it peaks, probably midway through. But it was about a decade, 15 years. And then DVD shows up, and that DVD starts, and it picks up much quicker.
That's right.
And then, cable was in there somewhere as well, and then streaming kicks in, and then streaming.
I gave you some of my DVDs, remember?
Yes, exactly. And all of a sudden, everything just started changing. Streaming showed up, then music changed, and publishing changed, and it's just like, and everything now is so fast. AI is speeding things up like crazy. So just in these last 5 years, 2020 has been this decade has been started off literally with a bang.
Yeah.
This year has been no different. I mean, we started off, my God.
Yeah,
it's been crazy around the world, and things are happening. So what do you foresee for the rest of this year and just the next 5 years? Where do you see us in 2030? As with all the stuff we're talking about.
Right.
How much of the system is going to be really brought down and a new one come up in its space?
Well, that's what's going to happen. Right now, as you just commenting on what you said, I feel like I'm in a centrifuge. Let me thrown around. And there are times I call some friends of mine to say, do you feel this energy happening? Yes, it's so fast, so quick. And it feels as if it's, a tidal wave, waiting to happen, or when it's a whirlpool and it goes faster and faster. And it's gotten to a point now, and I know them older, but I gave up on what day it is, on what the time is, and when I look at my phone to know, is it really a Monday? Is it really? Because I just can't hold on to it anymore. It's just like I can't retain. And people that are young, when I say, I can't. 30-year-olds, I don't know what day it is. It's just so quick and so fast. So all you got to do is keep on grounding yourself, get back to your own heart. Don't get caught up in the speed of it. I think there's going to be breakdowns. I think no doubt about it. I think there's going to be a breakdown. I think our government's going to change in a way, which is already starting to, but it's going to be it's going to be brought down, and then it's going to I think what's going to happen, maybe more like little communities will start up, because things are going to be broken and people aren't going to be heard, but they will come back to kind of like attracts like, you know, their own little communities of what they're into, what their interests are, and that's how it's going to go back up. I just think everything's going to be questioned. I think there's going to be upheaval. I think there's going to be, I'm sorry to paint the negative picture, but I do believe it's a time for us to break down and start up again. So it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be a depression. I do. I think it's going to be a depression.
Yeah. Like a depression economically and
economically,
food, everything.
Economically, yeah. I'm already loading up my garage with extra things. I had a vision 2 years ago of like a CVS or Walgreens, and the shelves were empty. And then I went 2 months ago and looked, and some shelves were started being empty. I'm like, oh. So it's going to be, I feel like medical supplies will be limited.
Yeah, but we went through this with the pandemic.
Yeah, it's going to be even worse so. It's going to get worse, and it's just starting. Sorry to be the bearer of, but everybody knows it.
But the thing is, and the reason I talk about this as much as I do on the show is because I want people to be aware of it.
Be prepared.
And because as it happens around them, they're going to be confused.
What do they do then?
They're going to think about the world's coming to an end. I'm like, no.
But then what do? They go in. They go within.
They have to go.
They have to.
They have to go within. And it's like when in life, and I think you would agree with me, the universe, spirit guides, whoever you want to call, are guiding you throughout your life. Mm-hmm. And if you walk off the path a bit, they whisper in your ear, tap you on the shoulder, give you a little nudge, and you're like, no, I can't, no, I can't. And then the sledgehammer comes out and knocks you across the face.
That's right.
I think that's what we're going, and it's going through, where humanity's going through that.
I agree.
And and what happens?
The values are going to shift.
Exactly. And what happens when you have those dark nights of the soul, when you've lost someone, you've lost your job, you've lost everything. When you have that kind of outside pressure, that's when you are forced to go in.
Exactly right.
So that is what unfortunately has to happen, because we have not listened to the whispers, we have not listened to the taps, we have not listened to the nudges, and now the sledgehammers are coming out.
Sledgehammers are coming out, and then we got to go to our next level soul. Just saying.
I had no idea that name would do.
Just saying.
Would do what it does, because it's really.
Because I was your higher self giving you that information.
Well, literally in a meditation. Do you know that?
No, I don't know that. I missed out. I didn't know that.
So when I was doing the show, when I was creating the show in 3 weeks,
of course,
because my spirit guide told me, my living spirit
guide. He built
guide.
the studio in like 3 days too.
No, I did not.
The studio was like 2 days.
A little bit longer.
How many hours was it? I mean, and it's quality.
So I appreciate you.
Yeah.
But my spirit guide Connie, she told me to do.
Wait a minute. Way to slow down. Your spirit guide's name was Connie.
Her name is Connie. She's alive. She's been with me since I was 23.
My adopted mother's name was Connie, and she was the one who helped me believe in myself, and I wouldn't be here without her. And my first book is dedicated to her.
And now you know. Now we have another thing.
I gotta go.
So Connie, who's been on the show, she was actually released last week as of this recording.
Oh, wow.
Her 6th interview on the show.
Wow.
She's a star now.
She
She's
is
impossible to deal with. She's 89.
Oh, God bless her.
And she's still cooking, still doing one-on-ones, all that kind of stuff. And she told me, hey, you have to do a show, a spiritual show. And I said, you're insane. What's wrong with you? She's like, you got to do it, and you got to do it in 3 weeks, because 3 weeks is Easter, and that's a good time to launch the show. Wow. So I was so dismissive of this whole story. I'm like, me, it's a spiritual podcast. Like, it made no sense to me.
Right.
So I kind of challenged the universe before I went into a meditation. I go, okay, universe, okay, God. You want me to do a show about spirituality? I need a name. I need a name that's trademarkable. I need a name that I could get all the URLs and the social. I need that. I need a name that no one's used in the spiritual world or the New Age movement. Good luck, because everything's been abused 1,000 times. I went into my meditation and 3 words popped into my head.
Wow.
Next Level Soul. I was like, that's a pretty cool name.
That's pretty great.
And I was like, holy crap. And then now it's like you can start seeing people using like, yeah, next level soul. You have to go to become a next level soul. And I was like, holy crap.
You started the movement.
I'm like, holy crap. That's pretty amazing. I understand that I have I'm
nothing about you.
I'm just like you.
The instrument.
I'm a vessel.
You're the instrument.
I'm the instrument of it all. You know, I do the heavy lifting, but they push.
Yeah. And now you're all over the world. Hello.
International. Your Spanish episodes. Your Spanish episodes are fantastic.
Are they?
Oh, they do great. Yeah, we translated you, and you've been translated into 6 languages.
Wow.
and it's with AI, and it's people just love it. So
Yeah.
and we're going to continue to go into
Spanish markets and German markets are very big.
Yeah, those are the two markets that we're really going to start focusing on more and more. Probably late this year. We have a bunch of it, but we're going to go back.
If you want me to go there, I'll go there with you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Well, I really believe that your mission is to help evolve souls and go to that next level, and it's going to happen.
When the other side is trying to talk to us, what are some of the things that we should look out for? Because there's so many people listening right now, James,
Yes.
who want to connect with their mom, their dad, their friend, their dog, whatever it is. What are the kind of things that we should keep an eye out for, synchronicities, if you will, to do it? I told you a story yesterday on stage, you remember, about my aunt.
What's your name? No.
Take another shot.
Yeah.
No, we were talking on the stage before you went. When you did your talk, I walked you up and I go, hold on, I got to tell you a story about my aunt who died.
Yes, keep it going.
So my aunt died. My favorite aunt died, and then you said she's very proud of you. She's here.
That's right.
And I was like, okay. And then I said 2 days after she died, I was doing a project where I was looking at old VHSs and like recording them for something I was doing.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, a video, a 2-minute test video I did, because I was like in college, and I had a new Steadicam Junior that we had, and I was testing it out with a high-8 camera, and I recorded Thanksgiving dinner, and she was there with my grandma
I'm gonna cry.
and my other aunts.
Wow.
And my father. My father's still alive, but my father was there. He was a little bit young, a little bit older than I am right now, and all of that was happening. And I was like 2 days after she died, and I asked you. I mean, the coincidence is so remarkable. There's no reason I would have. I didn't remember shooting it.
Right.
Only after I was like, oh God, yeah. Oh wow, I remember that now. But I didn't recollect it. That it was so specific. And you said on stage yesterday, you said, that's what they do. They can influence things.
They can.
So can you explain that?
Sure. I mean, it's hard for a lot of us to understand in this three-dimensional world, but I will say that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Love that. and the spirit world can pull strings if you want, and they can make things happen, and they can influence the animal kingdom, birds and insects. And my brother, who just recently passed over, he said to me the other day, he said, listen, he came to me when I was taking a shower. So they'll tend to come to you when you open up your mind. So when people want to talk to loved ones, you got to surrender, you got to soften the mind, so they come to you. So like when you're reading a book, all of a sudden you'll get some information, or you're driving the car or whatever, because you're not thinking. So you're not in the head space. So as I said yesterday, and I always say head to heart, you got to go from your heart. So when you surrender into that space, I'm just opening up and just letting it be. Don't force it. It's easier for them to come through. So my brother came through with the other day, and he said to me, the flag, the flag, the flag. Now, I was shaving, I think it was after, and he said, the flag, don't forget the flag. I'm like, okay, I won't forget the flag. And so throughout the day, I'm like, look for the flag. I don't know about the flag. 3 days before, I was in my backyard, and I noticed, there's a little part of the building here that has termite damage. I got to find some insect person, a specialist. So I was like, okay. So that was on my mind. And then I'm looking that day for the flag. I pull into a parking lot, and right next to me is a van, which has a big red, white, blue flag all around it. And it's the insect finder.
Wow.
Now, what are the odds of that happening? I'm sure that was the flag. So because they're outside of time, they can do things with time. Because you remember, things happen over there first than they do here. Here's the last place that things materialize. Mm-hmm. So they can create things over there in a way, and they will materialize here. And the number one way they come through to us is a dream state. That's because we're not thinking.
Sure.
So the dream state. But there are other ways they can influence, like I said, birds and insects and so forth. The other day I'm driving my car, and all of a sudden I'm stopping at a red light, and a bee just went shh, and it's like cleaning itself. And I was like, oh, hi, my brother. Hi, Mike. And I also went shh, and then it flew off. Now, could that have just happened? Yes. But of all places to get my attention, they try to get our attention, and they will influence our mind to a point where we look at something. When there's a sign with their name on it or something else. So they can influence our mind in that respect, if we're open-minded, you see.
Have you ever had things manifest in front of you?
Yes.
Like a bugs or something that manifests, and there's no natural reason for it to be there.
Yes. Yes. I was talking to a good friend of mine on the phone, and we're talking about a friend of hers who lost a partner, and that I think he found a ring on the table or something. And as I'm speaking with her, her partner had passed over. And as she's telling me this story, I hear ding. I'm like, huh? And I said, hold on. And I walked to my washer and dryer in the other room, and there was a little ring. That was a female's ring. Didn't belong to me, didn't belong to my roommate. And I told her about it. I said, this is a ring. I said, this looks like your kind of a ring. Sure enough, I sent it to her, and it fit her perfectly. And I knew it was from her husband. So that happened. Wow. A couple of those types of things happen. Weird thing. A lot of coins. My sister who passed over, she loved dimes, and she used to work with the dimes coming through. She wrote a book about dimes. Well, after she passed, I'm making my bed. In the middle of the bed, there's a dime. I go to my truck, in the middle of the seat, there's a dime. My sister's putting her boots on, there's a dime in the boot. So they can manifest these things, happens like that. Another experience I had, which is really pretty amazing, and it's rare. I've had a lot of incredible mediumistic experiences. When I was in Brazil, I used to go to Brazil quite a bit. I used to bring groups down to go to spiritual centers throughout Brazil. And one of the times I was there, there's a place called the Frei Luís Center. It's outside of Rio. And I guess it was an agency of adoption for kids, but it's run by 200 mediums. And once a month, this is years ago, I don't know if they still do this, but 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I was there, they called me and said, we would like you to attend a seance, a healing with everybody here. There's going to be what's called a materialization. I said, okay. So I didn't really know, but there's a substance called ectoplasm that everybody has. This substance, ectoplasm. It's cellular, I guess you could say, the easiest way to look at it. But mediums have more of it than most people. And physical mediums have a lot of it. So I was invited to go to this very special once in a month house in the hill in this place called the Frei Luís Center. And my group was in another part of Brazil, and I had to fly to Rio, and I'd be there at 5:30 in the morning, and wear just white cotton garments, no drinking, sex, or red meat in 48 hours, so I was good. So 48 hours. And you go there at 5:30 in the morning, you just sit and meditate, and it's a darkened space, and there's chairs, and then there's like a little bit of a stage. And what happens is they bring the sickest children every month, like the cots, five at a time, and they bring them in, they put them in the cots, and then what happens is, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the vapor. This vapor starts up from everyone, and I had to wear vapor near me. I didn't feel anything but this vapor, and it forms into these feet and this legs, and it's building up and it literally forms a materialization of a doctor. A doctor.
Come on, James.
Yeah,
really?
With a white coat and holding some kind of a crystal that is rainbow color, and you can see it's moving. This light's moving inside the rainbow, and his doctor appears wearing a mask, and it wasn't someone who dressed up because we were watching it. I'm very cynical, not cynical, I'm very skeptical. Okay. And I'm like looking at this, going, oh my gosh! And they bring up the kids, and this being goes to each kid, and he holds this crystal rod and goes to different areas of the body, and then the other kids go on. And the second time, I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to get this done. Oh, I'd love to go up there. I swear to you, within seconds, one of the mediums that were helping out this person on stage had a red flashlight. They go, come. So who knows? They must have heard me. Uh-huh. I went up to the stage, laid down on the cot, and I'm waiting. And most people probably go up there and they're like closing their eyes to receive it. Yeah. Not me. Yeah. No. Yeah. I had to feel up the spirit. So, because for me, I had to know this was real. Sure, it was solid. I felt its leg. And it took this crystal thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it took this crystal rod and it went right to my solar plexus. And then it just happened, like 4 seconds, maybe 4 to 5 seconds. And it moved on. And then after that, they take you down. And afterwards, we all went and had some cake, some tea, and some cakes. And you felt like you had surgery. And that's exactly what it felt like. And they just bring you back. Well, 2 weeks later, I went back to Los Angeles where I lived, and I went to my doctor, and she looked at me and she said, what happened to your ulcer? You had an ulcer before you left Brazil. You don't have an ulcer anymore. What happened? I said,
Brazilian nuts. Brazilian nuts. Lots of Brazilian nuts.
And that was my experience with the materialization of a spirit.
Wow.
And I've also had materialization with the physical spirit with Leslie Flint, who's people go online, and he was the greatest physical medium in the last 20th century, where their artificial voice box would appear based upon the ectoplasm, and people would speak through the voice box. And Rudolph Valentino, Queen Victoria, all these very famous people. And my mother came through, and I had this on cassette tape, and she said, "I want to speak to James." I met James, my nickname. Then a Frenchman came through, and he goes, "I need to talk to James. James, can you hear me?" And I'm like freaking out. This is before I got into my mediumship. I was just in a development circle. And he said, "We are, Mr. James, there are many here." It's back in 1990, maybe. "There are many here who believe in you, who love you, are psychic, are sensitive." And I have this on a tape. And he says, "You are going to do many works, my friend. We are here to help you. You will write a book one day. You will travel over water. What we say now you will not know, but years from now you'll understand this." And I have this on tape. And it sort of happened exactly as that spirit said. So, I mean, it really... Yeah. So when you have those experiences and all the readings I've done.
And how far along on your journey?
Development? I was just starting to begin my development. I wasn't even doing readings yet. I was still seeing the development circle.
I've never heard of this voice box.
Oh, Leslie Flint. You should look him up.
I've never heard of that
the artificial voice
box. Has
that
ever been filmed?
Yes, you should look him up. He's online, Leslie Flint Foundation.
Okay.
And you can hear all the voices. There was a scientist, a couple, Betty Woods and something Green, Mr. Green, and they taped from 1940 probably to 1965 a lot of the sessions. So it's all on cassette tape. You can hear them. And then he was the most tested medium in the world. They would tape his mouth up like 7 times and Yeah.
To try to prove him wrong.
But he was wrong. But he wasn't. And it was just... He used to go as an 11-year-old boy into the movie theaters, into the cinema in London. And people say, "Shh, shh, shh," because the voices appeared in the dark all around him. Yes. Really? Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So have you heard of anyone else being able
No, I have not heard of anybody else doing it.
So that was something unique.
That was something so unique. And it was very interesting. I was sitting with Leslie before the seance started. And we're sitting there, and I was working, doing paralegal work, and starting to sit in the development circle. And there was a television over in the corner of the room. He goes, "James," very deep voice, "James." I said, "Yes." He goes, "You see that box over there?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "One day you're going to be on that." He goes, "You need to use it responsibly." Yeah. Wow. Isn't that wild? So
that's crazy.
Yeah. James. It's crazy.
Yesterday you spoke about the life review.
Yes.
And anyone who's ever seen a near-death experience on the show knows that life reviews are not always part of a near-death experience. They are part of going over the other side, but a near-death experience, not always.
And every life review is different.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. Once you go over, it's different than a life review that it's in and out.
Right.
Can you explain to people from your point of view what that life review is? Because it keeps you on the straight and narrow.
Well, it's funny you asked me because I was going to do a TED talk about this, and I still might. But it's really important, the life review. And I think it's just, I said it yesterday to the group. So when we first pass out of this physical vibration, a three-dimensional world, we go to, first of all, we're free. The sense of weight is gone. You feel your memory comes back to who you really are. There's a sense of just complete peace and love and harmony. And people that will come greet you, everybody is met by somebody. There's a reception. Before my brother passed over, they would show me like a village of people coming to meet him in this reception hall. And it was pretty incredible. And so from his point of view, too, I could tell you, but when you first pass over, everybody goes to their own memorial service, right? So usually, I'm not saying it happens at this exact time, because everyone's experience is different. They'll go to their funerals, if the memorial service or wakes. Let's say my sister went to her wake. I'm sitting there, raised Catholic. She wanted a wake. We're sitting there, and I heard her say, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, this is your wake." "What do you mean? This is such a waste of people's time. I can't." I said, "Well, this is what you want." She goes, "Oh, I can't believe I wanted this." So it's very interesting. She came right back and said that. But there's a life review. We will go to there. So after our funerals, memorial service, we go to the other side. We met our loved ones, and we go through it. It can happen in different ways. They say that you can go to a kind of hall where it's kind of like a hospital, but not kind of like our hospitals. It's a place of relaxation. Mm-hmm. And within that space, remember, there's no time. So you become aware of every situation you've just lived in the physical life, and you see it, feel it, and experience it from not only your point of view, but the other person's point of view. So, and you see it, feel it, and experience from their point of view. So let's say you went and you robbed, someone went in and they robbed, and this actually was a true story of one of my readings. This man, Chris, he went in and he robbed a convenience store, or he attempted to. And he said when he came through to his mother, one of the things that happened was, I remember this convenience store, and she gave me the money, and the money fell through the bag, and I left. And he goes, but then over here, I had to relive that. I relived it so strongly, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times stronger from when it really happened. And I became the cash register person who I stole money. I felt all of her fear, all of her upsetment. And it was so strong. And I was like, and then I felt the coworker who also felt that feeling of, oh my gosh, this fear and the upsetment. And then home with the family, when she went home, I had to feel all their feelings of, oh goodness gracious, it's terrible. And he said it was so strong that it weighed him down for a long time. It weighed him down. And that was he was responsible for all this bad energy. And he had to relive it, and he had to realize he created that. And I said, wow. And it held him back. I said, I was in a living hell that I created. And I couldn't get out of it until I just kind of understood things. I just couldn't get out of that. And then I said, well, how did you eventually get out of it? And he said, well, James, I did some good in my life. And and it's almost like what you were talking near-death experience when someone said, get out of the darkness, I've lived it, let me go somewhere else. Mm. He had an awareness that, or a guide came and said, also look at other parts of your life. And the other parts, he did some good things. And they said, concentrate on that. And it pulled him out of that mindset. And he was able to forgive himself, right? So one of the hardest things we pass over is hard to forgive ourselves for things we did and things we didn't do. So my sister, recently, my father came through and said to me, my sister, I said, where's my sister Lynn? He goes, well, she's kind of still having a life review, and just look at all the opportunities that she didn't take for loving herself and for loving others.
Beautiful.
So if we could have a life review while we're still in the physical body, wow, wouldn't we be different?
That's what NDEers are. When they come back, they change.
They change, but they just think if everybody in the public could have a life review now, not dying for it, you could do it while you're still in the body and just go reflect on your life and realize the things that you did or didn't do and ways you'd like to forgive and maybe just have it now. Boy, you could change things up and you wouldn't carry that over with you. And you really would start living a different type of life. You'd be living a more responsible life with your thoughts, words, and deeds. And like I said yesterday in the conference, if the world leaders could realize that.
Oh my God.
Would we change? Wouldn't they change? If they could just realize the responsibility. They have to go to a certain level to be open to this, obviously, which will happen eventually, not in my lifetime. But I just think that, boy, wouldn't it be a different world if people were aware of their responsibility with their thoughts, words, and deeds. Thoughts are powerful. I see thought. I see thought as a color. I see the design, the symbol, the density. I see them. When I walk into a room and I see people, when you say, oh, they're always around you, I'm closed, but not fully. No one's ever fully closed. But I'm much more aware now, maybe because I'm getting older or whatever it might be. I live in nature, that I see people's thoughts. I see people's energies. I see their auric fields, all the energy fields. I see when they shift from word of unconditional love, how it changes the colors around them, the fields around them, right? And it changes their whole dynamic. And that love, again, if we'd send that to someone, wow, imagine how you can influence someone with that loving energy. And that opens the other person up in that loving energy. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty amazing.
Let me ask you one last question before we finish up, James.
You're finished already?
I know. We could talk for hours, James. You got to fly back down here. So
I got to go back to San Diego, yes.
Yeah. This whole thing that we're going through, the awakening and this difficult times that we're going to be going through, I call it a rough waters, roller coaster. There's going to be some ups and downs, all that stuff.
I just hold on, kids.
Hold on, kids. It's going to be a hell of a ride. Sure. How long do you see this happening, and when do we start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel?
Hard to say because we're talking about, not a linear thing. I think we'll start seeing in April. I think we've already started seeing parts
we know the negative stuff, but when's is the positive? And you think, is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? Or I know it's going to be subtle. It's not going to be overnight. But
yeah, I think within 5 years.
Within 5 years, we're going to start. We're turn the corner.
Yeah.
Okay. So this decade, this is a pivotal decade.
It's a pivotal decade. And there'll be a lot of souls that leave. It'll be an exit point for a lot of souls. Yeah. It's almost like it reminds me of you have a shoe and somebody's got a lot of mud in the shoe and you got to shake it off in order to walk clearly, easy.
Right, and a lot of the generations that are not as open as you, older generations, that are stuck in the old ways, they have to essentially die off.
Yeah.
So the things change. Companies and governments and all that. But because I have hope, because I have kids, and the younger generation is not like my generation or your generation. They look at things so differently. They're so much more tapped in.
But remember, Alex, that those souls chose to come back at this period of time.
Right.
They chose this time because they're very different than we are. Very different, because they're a different vibration. They're different understanding, different soul groups, and the world will change and they'll be adaptable to that world change. Me being older, looking down, saying, "Wow, I can't even figure this out. I couldn't build a studio. I could barely build a desk." And it's amazing to see as you get old, things change, things getting faster, and there's also a part of, well, maybe it's because of work I do. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go when the time is right, because I've been it, I've done it. The world is so different. I mean, not that I don't want to be here, but I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. And I get the changes. And I think...
But you were part of that change.
Yeah, and so are you, Next Level Soul, because you're going to do more work. Your work's going to be even, much more accessible, if I can say it that way. I think there's going to be a whole new way. I want to say to you, I said to you, you're going to have a studio. You are bigger, movies, more, another way of doing things. Maybe it's the internet. I don't know. I think it's going to be some kind of another media thing going on.
We got a lot of plans. We got a lot of plans.
They'll happen. Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you a few questions. Ask all my guests. What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Living with an awareness of doing the right thing all the time, and influencing others with finding the best in everybody, and maybe letting them know about it if they don't know for themselves. And I know it sounds strange, that love, that energy of love, making someone else's, wow, I feel like my life is fulfilled if I can look back on this life and say, wow, I've left the world a better place than I found it.
If you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little James, what advice would you give him?
Don't come back. No.
Buy Apple at $7.
Yeah, really, buy Apple. I would just say, don't be as judgmental and critical, and everybody has a story.
How do you define God or source?
One is ONE, omnipresent, nurturing energy.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
What is love?
God, love, us, you, me, everyone. Everyone is love. Everything is love.
If you could ask God one question, what would it be?
First, you got to believe in God, even an entity
or source, whichever.
What would it be?
Yeah. Well, if you had a chance to ask the source of all of this a question, what would it be?
Why? Why?
Why is a great question.
Yeah.
And finally, what is the ultimate purpose of life?
Love, self-love, love. I think really love of self and love of others. I think that's really what it's about.
Beautiful answer.
And seeing yourself in someone else.
Yeah. It's stuff that Jesus talked about.
Jesus has been around,
among other masters.
We were probably walking with them in those sandals.
And it was just simple. These are simple core
The truths are very simple. It's the human being that wants to get caught up in the complexity of the simplicity. That's really what humans do. It's really, really simple. It's love or fear. But they wouldn't get caught up in complexity. That's really what it's about.
Where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing?
I have a school online called the JVP School of Mystical Arts with over 41 courses. And then I have a website, vanpraagh.com, VANPRAAGH.com.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience, James?
Be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
James, it is such a pleasure, my friend and
Thank
my brother,
you, Alex.
For coming on the show. I
appreciate
absolutely adore you. I adore
here.
everything that you've not only done in the past, but what you're continuing to do in this life and helping awaken the planet. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.